Bonjour et bienvenue à Gourmet, the channel where I cook my way through all the cookbooks I own and have never used. We are still working with Mastering the Art of French Cooking, where we'll be making Lobster Thermidor. Hold on, I'm on the wrong page. Lobster Thermidor, or Homard Thermidor. Um, Admittedly, I saw this in here. I knew it was a dish. I'm just making this because I heard about it from The Sims, so it made me chuckle. And I've never had it, so I knew I had to try it. Let's get started. So here's the vermouth I'm using. I had to get a new one because I ran out, because apparently Julie Child really loves vermouth. So I'm going to get 2 cups of this in there. And this is just a vermouth from the local liquor store. Like I didn't do any sort of research on what's best and what's not. Um, but yeah, so here's vermouth, and we'll slide that maybe more in frame. Oh, you can see. Fine. Okay, perfect. And here's our 2 cups of water. I'll just set that there. And now we'll start with our vegetables. So this calls for a large onion. So I just had this large yellow onion sitting around. So that's what I'm going to use. Just kind of go ahead, and it all says thinly sliced. So I'm not going to dice it. I'm not going to have to do any of that to this today. And here's the second part of our onion. We're just going to get these thinly sliced. I don't necessarily think it matters which way we thinly slice it, as long as it's thinly sliced. At least that's what I'm presuming. I could be wrong. I've never made this before. I've never had this before. I just know this from a computer game. And then it was in Wandavision, when Wandavision came out. I think episode 1 or 2 was where they introduced it. So, it's the dish has made its rounds, but today we finally get to taste it. And full disclosure, I am gonna do ooh, that was loud. Sorry about that. That was the top of my pot. But today we are gonna do this a little differently. I'm gonna actually do this a dairy-free version, just because I've had some skin issues with some dairy lately. So we're gonna do a dairy-free version. Plus, I have a friend who's got a dairy-free allergy, or a dairy allergy, so I thought this could be fun. Okay, and then these are the carrots I bought. I was at Trader Joe's. I didn't want a full carrot. I like these little rainbow ones, so I'm gonna take. It says a medium carrot. Not really sure what that means, but we'll take 3 of these and just kind of chop the heads off. Get rid of those, and then we'll just slice them. So I don't think the vegetables, reading the recipe ahead like I'm supposed to do, of course. Oh, oops. The vegetables aren't, I don't think are going to stay in here, but they're definitely flavoring the sauce and everything, because we do strain this at one point. So we'll strain and get all of the liquid, but we won't have any of the vegetables. However, I might save and do something else with them. Okay. And I just have this bagged celery. So here's our celery stock. Okay. I know there's a lot more onion in here than anything else, but it said 1 large onion, and that's what I'm going with. And then we're gonna. So this is the parsley I bought. I actually don't know which way the camera goes, but we need 6 sprigs of parsley, and it doesn't actually say to chop them or anything, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just throw them in. We have our bay leaf. Get my thyme. Okay, I need to add, it says specifically 6 peppercorns. These are the peppercorns that I have. They're actually the ones that I use in my pepper grinder. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit of these guys in. That was way more than 6. I'll definitely take a couple of those out. I think we'll see how many we can take out, but I think we should take a couple out. This is what our lobsters look like. These are, I guess, a Florida spiny lobster. So not as big as your Maine lobsters, but it's lobster season, and these came to me, like I said, from the Abonator. So we're gonna go ahead, toss these little guys in. Yes, this recipe I think is expecting you to use bigger lobsters, but how could you pass up the chance to use local, fresh caught lobster? You just can't. You can't. So I'm going to go ahead and get this simmering and get this covered. We're going to simmer it for about 15-20 minutes. So we're getting ready for our mushrooms. I've got this pot. I'm just going to use, like I said, we're going dairy free. So I'm actually using this duck fat because I think that will be delicious with our mushrooms. We have just, I don't know. I never know which way to hold this. Just some pre-sliced baby Bella mushrooms. We need, oh, mushroom down. Sad day. We need a ½ pound of mushrooms. I didn't measure. I'm not measuring. I figured 2 boxes of mushrooms, even if it's more than more, it's going to be delicious. And now I'm going to wash my hands because I touched the floor. Okay, let's get these guys down. We have our mushrooms. This recipe technically calls for a ½ pound of mushrooms, a tablespoon of butter, a teaspoon of lemon juice, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then you cook them covered. We're deviating because we want our mushrooms to taste good. Not that these wouldn't, but I think we can do a little bit better. So I'm going to add salt, pepper. We are going to add our lemon juice because, of course, like, come on, we'll follow the recipe. Probably more than what it said, but that's okay. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and get a little bit of garlic. Mostly because I know that that's going to be delicious. Now I'm going to cook these mushrooms down. Welcome back. Here we are. So these are what our mushrooms look like. I did cover them for about 10 minutes. And then I have just this bowl sitting over here that I'm going to toss these guys into because, like I said earlier, we are supposed to save the mushroom juices and put them in here. We don't have many left. I think I accidentally, heated a little too high. And that's why they look the way they do. But they smell delicious. I'm not going to lie to you. These mushrooms smell so good. What I am going to do really quick, though, and this is not part of the recipe, when I'm going to add a splash of vermouth in here, since we already have that in the other pan, and I'm just going to kind of work to get the little, to clean the bottom of our pan off a little bit, because I think that's going to add some good flavor into our lobster liquid. And then here is, perfect, set that down there. Can you guys see? Okay, perfect. It's a little off, but that's the best we can do right now. So this is what our lobster liquid looks like. It smells good. A lot of the herbs are on the side. So I'm just going to kind of stir this really quick. I did realize, I think I forgot to say that we added tarragon to this. But our lobsters are looking very nice. Look at them. They're well cooked. They smell good. I'm going to put these guys in the mushrooms for now, just to kind of let them cool, because the goal is to eventually de-shell them. So let's get that here. Get this last guy out. He definitely has a little bit of onion with him. And then I'm going to take, like I said, there's hardly any mushroom liquid in here. But I'm going to turn that burner off, turn this one back on, pop that mushroom in there. Now we're going to let our cooking liquid heat up some more. Um, honestly seems like we don't have that much left, but we're going to boil it for just a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and strain it. So I'm going to get that set up ready. But I'm just going to pour my liquid into here, into this other sauce pot, just to catch all of the juices. Okay. I'm kind of, guess we'll move that. I'm running out of space. There we go. We've got our flour. This says to use 5 tablespoons of flour, or 6 tablespoons of flour and 5 tablespoons of butter. So I'm doing kind of big tablespoons. That's my flour. And then I'm probably committing a cardinal sin right now, but I only have so much duck fat left, so I'm going to go ahead, just pour that in there. And I know I need a little more fat, so I actually, from my local butcher, I have this beef tallow. Yes, I'm combining different kinds of fat, I know, but you know, you can roast me in the comments, that's fine. This is about what we have on hand. And without doing it, by doing it without butter, you know, we got to use some alternatives. But these are also delicious. So I don't see the problem. We just have this on low, but I am just trying to combine the flour and the fat, much like you do with any other kind of roux with butter. Our roux is ready, so I'm going to go ahead and pour in our sauce. We're just going to turn that off because it's supposed to be off heat. Here is my lobster sauce. Set that back down. And then we'll get a whisk and we'll whisk this together. And just like instantly thickened. It smells good. It's definitely a thick sauce, but that's okay. We might add a little bit of water to thin it out because it is going to sit a little bit, but we do have one more thing to do, and that is to add some cream. So like I said, we're going dairy free, so this is just some cream, a coconut almond cream, well I guess a creamer, but you know, from Trader Joe's. The only other creamer they had was a brown sugar creamer, and that was not going to fly. So we're doing this. I don't think it will taste bad. I'm going to call that as a couple tablespoons. This recipe technically said a tablespoon of cream, but you could see that our sauce was pretty thick, so a little extra cream won't hurt us. Okay, so we've got this little bowl out because we're gonna finish our stuff for the sauce. What we need is a half cup of whipping cream. So I'm just gonna do that. We need a pinch of cayenne. So there's our pinch of cayenne. We're going to use 1 tablespoon of dry mustard. Okay, and then we need 2 egg yolks. And then I'm going to take my whisk from the sauce behind, and I'm just going to whip this together. And then what I'm going to do, bring this over. I'm going to pour this in to our sauce. I'm going to whisk this in. And then I'm going to actually go ahead and taste this just because this definitely has a lot of that flour. It has a lot of that cream in it. And it doesn't seem like it might have the most flavor, but I'm going to go ahead and get a spoon and we'll try. I'm anticipating needing salt and pepper. Oh, yeah. Add some salt. Add some pepper. And then just to bring out a little bit of the flavors from before, I am going to add a little bit of tarragon and a little bit of thyme back into this. I know we're deviating from the recipe, but using the non-dairy cream kind of switches the flavor just slightly. And honestly, I added too much. So I think it's good to just bring these flavors back in. That's why we try. Let's give this a go. I might add a little more cayenne. Is that really... you know how I feel about this cookbook, everybody. I think sometimes the things are a little flavorless. Not that they're not good. They definitely are delicious, but they can always be bumped up in flavor. And I think this is definitely one of the times. Now, sure, if I used a regular cream, that might not be the case, but I still think it is. Because even cream itself, like, it's not like cream has a lot of flavor to it, you know? So let's give this a try. That's better. I think I'm still going to add a little bit of salt. I'm going to add a little bit more pepper. And it's just, honestly, what I'm really tempted to add is a little bit of like vermouth or cognac. But we won't do that yet. I'll do that later if I want. But let's give that a try. That's better. So here we are. These are our lobsters. Just gonna unfold them and cut them in half. Okay, there's one. And the reason we're going to cut them in half is because we're serving them in shell. Okay, so our beef towel is ready to go. I'm just going to get our lobsters in. All of this lobster meat. And we're going to go ahead and stir this up. Get this all nice and heated through again. Now that we've got these guys hot again, I am going to break out the cognac, and we need a third cup. Now we're going to stir this around. If there's one thing Julia Child loves, it's, well, I guess two things. Is vermouth and cognac. We really hit those recipes recently, haven't we? This is what I'm going to use to put in the oven. Like I said, we cook on 425 for, it says 10 to 15 minutes until the lobster is bubbling. We probably won't do that much because we just have our little thing here. But what we are going to do is get our mushrooms and our sauce. And I'm going to fold in the mushrooms into the sauce. And it says to fold in the mushrooms into like a third of, or 2/3 of the sauce. The way I have it, it's all going in, baby. And I'm not so much folding as I am whisking. But I think this is going to add a nice little depth to the sauce. I mean, who doesn't like a cream sauce, you know? So there we go. I am going to take this lobster shell, and I guess for picture purposes, this lobster shell, and we're gonna go ahead and pour in some of the sauce into our lobsters. Get these guys nice and coated. We are on the home stretch. Here we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and scoop into our lobster shells as best as possible. Here we go. That's, you know what? That's kind of the best I can do. But now I'm going to put a little more sauce on top. And then we'll bake this at 425 for about 10 minutes. Well, here we go. Here is our Lobster Thermidor. Can you see it? Sort of. Maybe not the best way to do it. But we've got them cooked in the lobster shell. I don't have the best pan for that, so I tried my best. But let's just take a bite of one. Get some sauce. Get a mushroom. Get some more sauce. Maybe let it cool off a bit. It's so hot. We had it in the oven for just about 10 minutes. It got nice golden brown. You know what? I was a little worried about the sauce. Not anymore. That's great. I do enjoy that. The recipe did say to top with like Swiss or Parmesan. Of course, we were doing dairy free, so I just didn't top with the cheese. I think it would be good with cheese, but I'm also not mad about not having the cheese, especially since so many of these recipes have Swiss or Parmesan in them at the moment. But I liked this one. Is it a perfect 10? Absolutely not. I think it's maybe closer to an a 7, 8. I got lucky because I got the lobster for free, right? That would have been a huge expense. Now, sure, I'm probably supposed to have about double the lobster, but I'm not going to complain. I'll use the sauce or something else. But other than the lobsters, I did have to go out and buy more vermouth, and I'm going to have to buy more cognac after this because I am almost out. And I think the sauce took a little bit of finagling from what the recipe said. I know I'm using a different kind of cream, a dairy-free cream, but even without any of the flavorings that I added, it just kind of didn't taste like much. And I know when you add a roux and cream, that also doesn't always taste like a lot. So I think it just needs to be amped up a little more. Maybe I just needed to save more of the cooking liquid than I did. Who knows? But I think I'm going to play around with the sauce a little bit, get that better. But honestly, guys, I liked this one. I think I'm going to overall score it a 7 just because for the things that I mentioned, the lobster, the vermouth, the cognac, and the sauce kind of being a little iffy. But I think it's fun. I'm glad I made it. I feel like a sim level 10 cooking. It might be wrong. It might be lower than that, but it feels like it's a level 10 cook. I feel, kind of like WandaVision. Just snap my fingers. There's a Lobster Thermidor. Yeah, I like this one, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.